For the past several Sundays, the gospel readings from Matthew have been a bit grim, and so this morning is a nice shift in tone. But the original grimness does make some sense. Matthew was written after the destruction of the temple, when the persecution of Christians was starting to take off, so it's no surprise that Matthew's Jesus warns the disciples, both the ones in the story and the ones reading the story, that following him has a cost, and that the cost could be high. And when he sends them out on their mission, Jesus instructs the disciples to take nothing with them and to rely completely on the hospitality of others. And in today's reading, Jesus appears to address those who might welcome them. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me. The implication here is that welcoming the disciples is risky, because being a disciple is risky. And in the same way, welcoming a disciple can bring a reward, because being a disciple can bring a reward. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. And anyone who welcomes the disciples or prophet, or who welcomes the righteous, or even gives a cup of little water to these little ones, even if there is an earthly cost, they will receive a heavenly reward. I honestly struggled for a long time before trying to figure out what I might say to you today, because I was trying to figure out what Jesus might be saying to me. And what I landed on was, I think Jesus is trying to tell us all something about hospitality. He preaches briefly on it in this passage in both directions. He tells the disciples how to behave as guests, and tells those who might welcome them how to behave as hosts, and that there is a reward for doing so. In ancient Near Eastern culture, hospitality was very highly valued. The Old Testament and Jewish law have thousands of years of instructions to the faithful on welcoming strangers in foreign lands, welcoming visitors from neighboring towns, and treating all guests with generosity and care. Our culture isn't quite so big on the ancient kind of hospitality. In the ancient times, it wouldn't be unusual for travelers to knock on your door and ask for a place to stay and a meal for the night before they continued on their way. And the ancient hospitality traditions would say you were supposed to host them. Wake up, give them a meal, give them somewhere to sleep, even if it was in the barn or with the livestock. But the law was, you were meant to be hospitable to visitors. Thousands of years have passed, and our society's laws have, I think, shifted in the opposite direction. Our laws often focus on the rights of the property owner rather than the rights of those who may be asking for help. Many of us might be too scared to open our doors in the middle of the night to a stranger who is asking for help. We've heard scary stories on the news. We want to keep ourselves and our families safe. What then, I wonder, does Christian hospitality mean in 2026? As both a host and a guest. Sometimes hospitality has fairly low stakes. I think our church is pretty good at hospitality, actually. We love a meal. We love a coffee hour. We are warm and friendly, but not in a creepy way. Hopefully. We don't want to overwhelm people, but we do want them to know we're happy to see them, and we want them to feel welcome, like they can be at home here. Most of us are in this room because someone invited us, or because when we showed up, someone made us feel welcome. including me. I was first here as a supply priest, and you all made me feel very welcome. If it hadn't been a warm, friendly environment, I might not have applied. But I remembered very well how it felt to be with you. Most churches are pretty good at that kind of hospitality. Someone comes to the door, we generally let them in, no questions asked. There is occasionally some risk involved, even with that very simple kind of hospitality. Just a couple weeks ago, we passed the 11th anniversary of the Mother Emanuel shooting from Charleston, South Carolina, where our brothers and sisters at Mother Emanuel welcomed in a young man to their weeknight Bible study, and by the end of the night, 9 of them did not survive. Even that very simple kind of hospitality can occasionally have some risks. But most of the time, it costs us very little. Someone knocks on the door of the church, we let them in. Churches have tried to learn how to be cautious without losing that hospitality that makes us who we are. I spoke for a while with one of the diocesan security experts, and we talked about the power of hello. And the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has a whole webpage dedicated to the power of hello in houses of worship. That if you see someone new, to greet them warmly and make them feel welcome. And if someone is acting a little strange, the power of hello can sometimes be all you need. So if you're curious about that website, happily show it to you. So we're wanting to learn how to be cautious without losing that Christian hospitality. Because most of the time, it is true, it costs us very little to be good hosts and to be good guests. We might need to introduce ourselves to a stranger, to a first-time visitor. That's harder for some of us than others. We might need to help someone access community resources, give someone a ride to church, help parents and their young children feel welcome and worship. Hospitality inside these doors usually comes pretty naturally. It's hospitality outside of these doors that may demand a little more of us. Maybe in 2026, Christian hospitality, might not be asking us to open our homes to travelers who knock on the door at night, but maybe it is asking us to advocate for our neighbors who have no home to go to at night. Maybe it means voting for initiatives that will provide housing and resources to those neighbors, even if we may need to help pay for them with our tax dollars. Maybe it means prioritizing the well-being of our neighbors higher than our property value. For example, the Bremerton Housing Authority owns some property in East Bremerton that they're trying to rezone for a shelter initiative with tiny homes. This is a housing-focused shelter initiative. And at the first meeting they had with public comments invited, more people opposed the initiative than supported it. There's another opportunity on July 20th for citizens to give comments in any direction or to ask questions. And our neighbor church, St. Paul's, is located very close to the proposed site, and they are urging their parishioners to show up in support of this new housing initiative. Even doing that may cost us very little, maybe some nerves and a racing heart as we say our comments, and nothing more. At the end of the day, Jesus encourages his disciples to be guests, to make themselves dependent on those who would host them, on those who would welcome them in, even without knowing if a welcome would be there when they arrived. Sometimes it is even harder to accept care and help from others than it is to give it. Jesus encourages everyone else to be good hosts to the disciples, to welcome them, to welcome the prophets, to welcome the righteous ones and the little ones, the dependent ones, promising that doing so will bring them a heavenly reward. And so I wonder, maybe we don't have to wait for heaven to experience the blessings and rewards that come from showing Christian hospitality. Maybe those rewards can be felt now, today. After all, giving is the very best gift of all.